When I saw my stepson Tool, I went crazy with desire I couldn't hold back. Good afternoon to everyone on the Real Infidelity Stories channel. The clock ticked softly in the dimly lit living room as I, Clara, nestled into the corner of the couch. At 37, I had built a life that seemed perfect on the outside, a cozy house filled with memories and the occasional laughter of my stepson, Ethan. But beneath the surface lay a deep-seated loneliness that grew heavier with every passing night. My husband, Mark, a truck driver, was away for days at a time, leaving me to fend for myself in the stillness of our home. The walls felt like they were closing in on me, echoing my solitude. I often found myself gazing out the window at the night sky, counting the stars as if they were old friends. Each one represented a wish unfulfilled, a longing for something more: companionship, intimacy, and warmth. Ethan had come to live with us after my marriage to Mark, and while our family dynamic was unconventional, he quickly became the source of both comfort and confusion in my life. At 18, he was tall and athletic, with an easy smile that could light up the darkest of rooms. But it was more than just his charm that drew me to him, it was the connection we forged, which seemed to deepen with every shared moment. As the nights dragged on, I often caught myself stealing glances at him when he was around. He was growing into a man before my eyes, and while I knew it was inappropriate, my heart raced at the thought of his closeness. I wanted to reach out, to feel his warmth beside me, yet I was painfully aware of the boundaries that kept us apart. Tonight, the house was quieter than usual. Mark had left early that morning for another long haul, and Ethan had gone to bed early, exhausted from school and soccer practice. The silence felt like a heavy blanket, smothering me in its grip. I wrapped my arms around my knees and sighed, wishing for someone to share my thoughts with. I closed my eyes, letting the memories wash over me. Those first few weeks after Ethan moved in, how he stumbled through the transition with the grace of a young man trying to find his place. I remembered the laughter we shared over dinner, the times we both sought solace in each other's company while Mark was away. As I reminisced, I felt a sudden urge to check on Ethan. Perhaps he needed something? Maybe he was lonely too, like me. I tiptoed down the hallway, the soft glow of his bedroom light peeking through the door crack. Pushing the door open gently, I found him sprawled out on his bed, fast asleep, one arm draped over his face. The sight tugged at my heartstrings. He looked so peaceful, so unaware of the turmoil brewing within me. I stood there for a moment, watching him, contemplating the life we had together. The laughter, the shared secrets, and the comfort we found in each other. It was then that I realized how much I craved his presence. I longed for someone to talk to confide in. But more than that, I yearned for a deeper connection, something that went beyond the boundaries of a stepmother and stepson. Feeling the weight of my loneliness, I returned to the living room, unable to shake the yearning in my heart. I sank back onto the couch, clutching a throw pillow to my chest as tears prickled at the corners of my eyes. I felt trapped in a life that didn't seem to have room for love, yet there was Ethan, right under my nose, who made me feel alive again. As the minutes passed, I heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I turned to see Ethan standing in the doorway, his hair tousled and eyes half closed. I couldn't sleep, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. Neither could I replied, gesturing for him to join me on the couch. He hesitated, but then sank into the seat beside me. The warmth radiating from his body sent shivers down my spine. We sat in silence for a moment, both aware of the unspoken tension hanging in the air. "Do you ever feel lonely?" I asked, breaking the stillness. Ethan shifted slightly, looking away for a moment before meeting my gaze. "Yeah, sometimes. Especially when Mark's gone for days." His honesty struck a chord within me. It can be really tough. I often find myself wishing for someone to talk to share my thoughts with, I confessed, my heart pounding in my chest. "Me too," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt a wave of vulnerability wash over me. Ethan, I know our situation is complicated. But I want you to know that I care about you deeply. You filled a space in my heart that I thought was lost forever. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, as if trying to decipher the depth of my feelings. I care about you too, Clara. You've always been there for me since I moved in. I just didn't know if it was okay to feel that way. In that moment, the air crackled with unspoken emotions, and the boundaries of our relationship began to blur. I leaned in slightly, drawn to him in a way I had never allowed myself to be before. Ethan, I began, but the words faltered on my lips. Before I could finish, he took my hand, his touch igniting a spark that coursed through my body. I could feel the heat radiating between us, the tension thick enough to slice through the night. I think we both feel the same way, he said, his voice steady yet filled with uncertainty. My heart raced as I gazed into his eyes, searching for clarity amid the whirlwind of emotions. I was drawn to him, not just as a stepson but as a young man who understood my loneliness and craved connection just as much as I did. Maybe we should explore what this means, I whispered, my voice trembling. He nodded, his grip tightening around my hand. I'd like that. In that moment, as we sat together on the couch, an unspoken promise hung between us. We would navigate the complexities of our relationship, embracing the connection we had discovered in the shadow of loneliness. As the night wore on, we shared whispered secrets, laughter, and a newfound intimacy that made the world outside our little bubble fade away. I felt a rush of emotions as our hands lingered together, fingers intertwining, our bodies inching closer. Clara, Ethan said softly, breaking the silence. I've always admired you. Not just as my stepmom, but as a person. You're strong, kind. Everything I wish to be. My heart swelled with pride and longing. You're going to be an incredible man, Ethan. You already are, I replied, brushing a strand of hair away from his forehead. The moment hung thick in the air, and before I realized it, my hand lingered on his cheek. The warmth of his skin sent shivers down my spine. In an instant, he leaned in closer, his breath mingling with mine, and I knew we were on the brink of something monumental. Can I kiss you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper, eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race. Yes, I breathed, hardly believing I had spoken the word. He leaned in, our lips meeting in a gentle, tentative kiss. The world around us faded away, leaving only the soft sound of our breathing and the pounding of our hearts. It was electric, awakening something deep within me that I had long suppressed. Ethan deepened the kiss, his hands moving to cup my face, and I melted against him, responding in kind. My heart raced as I felt his fingers caress my back, pulling me closer, as if we could fuse into one. The kiss was tender yet filled with a passion that ignited a fire in my soul. Ethan put his hand on my waist and slowly bring it towards my chest and press them. Then he turned me, and start kissing on neck, and I feel so good that I couldn't resist and grab his tool. It was so good I enjoyed after a long time. The feel, the romance, and still we both need more. As we finally pulled away, breathless and wide-eyed, I could see the same shock reflected in Ethan's gaze. We shared a smile, the weight of our connections settling between us like a soft blanket. Wow, he murmured, his voice laced with awe. Wow indeed, I echoed, feeling a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. This is unexpected. He chuckled softly, brushing his thumb across my cheek. But it feels right, doesn't it? It does, I admitted, a smile spreading across my lips. With newfound courage, I leaned in again, capturing his lips in another kiss, this one deeper and more passionate. I could feel his hands exploring my back, sending waves of warmth through me. I wrapped my arms around his neck, feeling safe in his embrace as the kiss intensified. Our kisses grew more fervent, and I could feel his heart racing against my chest. In that moment, the world outside ceased to exist. All that mattered was the connection we shared. My hands tangled in his hair, and I felt alive, free from the shackles of loneliness that had bound me for so long. Breaking apart for breath, I rested my forehead against his, our breaths mingling in the silence of the room. "What are we doing?" I whispered, half in fear, half in exhilaration. "I don't know, but I don't want to stop," he replied, his eyes shining with a mix of determination and desire. With every ounce of courage I possessed, I leaned back in, kissing him again, letting the emotions wash over us. Our kisses deepened. The world outside faded into a distant memory. I felt alive in Ethan's arms, the warmth of his body igniting something in me that I thought had long since died. Each caress of his lips against mine sent shivers down my spine, drawing us closer in a web of passion and longing. But just as I was ready to lose myself in this newfound connection, the sound of a slamming door shattered the moment. Startled, we pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed. My heart raced as I realized that Mark had returned from a long day on the road. "Crap," I murmured, glancing toward the hallway where I could hear his heavy footsteps and the slurring of his words. Mark had a tendency to indulge a bit too much when he was home, often seeking solace in a bottle after the long hours of driving. "Should we?" Ethan started, but I raised a finger to my lips, signaling him to stay quiet. Mark stumbled into the living room, his eyes glassy, and I could smell the alcohol on him from where I stood. "Clara," he bellowed, his voice loud and rough. "You're here waiting for me, right?" "Of course, honey," I replied, forcing a smile as I took a step back, trying to create some distance. "Just watching a movie." He grinned, lopsided and drunken. "Good. I need to unwind." He plopped down onto the couch, the weight of his exhaustion evident in his posture. I shared a quick glance with Ethan, who looked concerned but didn't move. The tension in the room was palpable as Mark fumbled with the remote, trying to figure out the television. As the minutes dragged on, I felt a growing anxiety. My heart raced at the thought of what Ethan and I had shared moments before. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. And now with Mark in the room, everything felt uncertain. Mark shifted uncomfortably on the couch, and I saw an opportunity. "Why don't I grab you a drink, Mark?" I suggested, hoping to buy some time and create an escape route for myself. He waved a hand dismissively, eyes glued to the screen. "Nah, I'm good. Just tired. Might just take a nap here." I nodded relieved and quietly slipped out of the living room, casting one last glance at Ethan, who was still watching the scene unfold with bated breath. I retreated down the hallway, the familiar path to Ethan's room feeling both thrilling and forbidden. Once inside, I closed the door behind me, heart racing with anticipation. The room was dimly lit, the soft glow from a desk lamp casting a warm hue across the walls. I felt the gravity of what was about to happen press down on me. "Clara." Ethan's voice broke the silence, laced with uncertainty. "Are you sure about this?" I stepped closer to him, my heart pounding in my chest. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I whispered, letting the vulnerability in my voice echo the truth of my feelings. Ethan took a step forward, his eyes searching mine. And before I could second-guess myself, I reached up to kiss him again. This time, it was electric, filled with the urgency of 1,000 unsaid words. My hands tangled in his hair as I pressed my body against his, feeling the warmth radiate between us. He responded in kind, his hands exploring the curve of my waist, pulling me closer until I could feel the beat of his heart against my own. The kiss deepened, our breaths mingling as we lost ourselves in the moment. Suddenly, a loud crash from the living room broke the spell, followed by Mark's voice yelling incoherently. My heart sank. "I have to go check on him," I said reluctantly, pulling away. "Clara, wait." Ethan grabbed my wrist gently, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, fighting the wave of anxiety threatening to overwhelm me. "I'll be fine. Just give me a moment." I opened the door slowly, peeking out into the hallway. Mark was still sprawled on the couch, but I could hear him cursing under his breath, clearly agitated. I hurried down the hallway, hoping to calm him down before he became too unruly. "Mark, everything all right?" I asked, entering the living room with feigned nonchalance. He looked up, his eyes narrowing as he tried to focus on me. "What are you doing in there?" he slurred, suspicion lacing his voice. "You hiding something from me?" I forced a laugh, trying to deflect his suspicions. "No, just tidying up." "You know how it is," I replied, giving him a reassuring smile. "Yeah, right," he muttered, shaking his head. "I'm just saying you shouldn't be so friendly with him. He's a kid, Clara." His words pierced through me like ice. "He's my stepson, Mark. He's family." I shot back defensively, trying to stand my ground against his drunken tirade. "Family?" Mark echoed incredulously, his tone rising. "You think family means letting him take over? You're too close to him, Clara. It's not right." His accusations stirred a fire within me, but I knew arguing would lead to nothing good. Instead, I forced a smile and said, "You're tired, honey. Let's get you to bed." Mark huffed in annoyance but didn't resist as I helped him to his feet. He leaned heavily against me as we made our way down the hallway, and I felt a wave of relief when we finally reached our bedroom. I helped him onto the bed, ensuring he was comfortable, and watched as he drifted off to sleep almost immediately. The moment he closed his eyes, I felt a rush of guilt and desire crash over me like waves. With Mark now asleep, the thrill of what I'd left behind in Ethan's room beckoned me like a siren song. I hesitated, torn between my loyalty to my husband and my undeniable attraction to my stepson. With a deep breath, I decided. I couldn't ignore what I felt any longer. Quietly, I slipped out of the bedroom and made my way back to Ethan's room. My heart raced as I entered, finding him sitting on the edge of his bed, his expression a mix of hope and concern. "I thought you weren't coming back," he said, relief flooding his voice. "I had to make sure he was settled," I replied, stepping closer. "But now I want to be with you." The moment my words hung in the air, I crossed the space between us, my hands finding his face as I pulled him into a kiss. This time, it was filled with urgency and longing, as if our souls were intertwining in that brief, electrifying moment. Ethan responded eagerly, his hands sliding down my waist, igniting a fire within me that I had long suppressed. I pulled back slightly, gazing into his eyes, which were dark with desire. "Are you sure this is what you want?" I asked, needing to hear him say it. He nodded, his voice steady. "I want you, Clara. I've wanted you since I moved in." With that confession, all doubt vanished, and I knew we were crossing an uncharted line together. I leaned in for another kiss, feeling him deepen the connection, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I could feel the heat radiating from his body as I pressed against him, my heart racing as his hands roamed across my back, drawing me in. Every touch felt like electricity, igniting something I had kept buried for too long. As we kissed, I felt a warmth spread through me, a sense of safety and desire that I hadn't experienced in years. I pulled away just enough to catch my breath, staring into his eyes, both of us realizing the gravity of our situation. "Ethan," I breathed, "this feels so right, but we have to be careful." "I know," he replied, his voice low and serious. "But I can't help how I feel about you." With a nod, I captured his lips again, more fervently this time. I felt the world outside disappear as we lost ourselves in each other, letting the moment consume us. I slid my hands down to his chest, feeling the hard muscle beneath his shirt, and I could see the desire reflected in his gaze. As our kisses grew more passionate, Ethan's hands slid under my shirt, exploring the softness of my skin. My body responded instinctively, arching toward him as he caressed me, igniting every nerve ending with his touch. The thrill of our secret was intoxicating, and I felt more alive than I had in years. With trembling hands, I pushed his shirt off, exposing the smooth skin of his chest. He gasped softly, eyes wide with desire. "Clara, are you sure?" he asked, breathless. "More than ever," I murmured, kissing my way down his neck, feeling him shiver beneath my touch. We surrendered to the moment, each kiss and caress fueling the flames of our desire. In that intimate space, we became lost in each other, finally allowing ourselves to explore the depths of our feelings without fear or hesitation. As we tangled in a whirlwind of passion, I realized that we were no longer just stepmother and stepson. We were two souls desperately craving. As we tangled in a whirlwind of passion, I realized that we were no longer just stepmother and stepson. We were two souls desperately craving connection,